So I'm Eric Westridge, the host of Startup Show San Diego. Also with us, we have Alina Gordon, which is kind of our liaison to the PetTech community. We've got Elizabeth Perez, who's also one of the hosts in Startup Show San Diego, and Kaizan Tanabe from Into Bento, and Alina's also from Stanza Pets. So hopefully we'll be joined by Alex Trainer. And so far we have the score, and I believe 5 dogs to 2 cats. Also represented on the webinar, so dogs are very ahead. Alina, I guess we'll start with Elizabeth. Why don't you tell everybody who you are?
Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth Perez, and I am a co-host for Startup Show San Diego. I usually work with Eric to focus on women in tech or women entrepreneurs, and today I get to sit in on PetTech.
Great. And Alina.
Hi everyone, my name is Alina Gordon, and I am the founder and CEO of Stanza Pet. We are a pet sharing app that helps pet lovers connect with pet owners and provide the void for pet care in need. We are based out of San Diego and looking to launch by the end of the year. So stay tuned. Happy to get people on board. Reach out, Alina Gordon on Facebook, and join the community.
And Kaizan, Into Bento, unique dog food.
Yeah, so we are a dog treat company with a social mission. We want to spread awareness of cricket protein as a sustainable alternative source of protein, and it's a highly nutritious, highly sustainable ingredient that we use to make really nutritious dog treats. We're a product of San Diego in a lot of ways. Our team was formed out of a startup weekend. I participated in the startup leadership program, and I'm currently working on bringing Impact Hub here to San Diego. So we've been able to tap into a lot of the San Diego resources here, and definitely grateful for being able to interact with and partner with many organizations. So Eric, thank you so much for hosting us. This is a great webinar.
So of course they make people food out of crickets, and now they make dog food out of crickets, which is both sustainable, and if your dog has allergies to a lot of things that are in food. Do you get much problems with allergies to crickets, or has that never even come up?
So a lot of dogs are becoming increasingly allergic to actually an increasing number of ingredients that are being put into dog food. So we make sure that all of our ingredients are sourced in the United States, that we manufacture here in the U.S., and we actually manufacture here in San Diego and distribute. And so the only allergies that we are careful of when considering cricket protein are shellfish allergies. The exoskeletons of insects are similar in a lot of ways to those of shellfish. So if your dog is allergic to shellfish, we definitely caution to contact your veterinarian or nutritionist before feeding our treats to your dog. But we do try to minimize the number of ingredients we use and make sure that they're all human grade and high quality.
Cool. So one thing all our presenters should be aware of is, since at this stage we're using Google Hangouts for this webinar, while we can talk pretty much on time, Google takes this conversation, compresses it, and then sends it out. So if anybody else comes on and chats, or we ask questions, or they ask a question, realize there could be 30 seconds to over a minute delay, depending on where in the world what their bandwidth is. So if you ask a question or see a question come in, use your time machine in your head to get it back to where it started. So the purpose of this was just to kind of go over what we've done as far as a content strategy for San Diego, ask how we can make that content strategy better to support the pet tech community, and just have a conversation about pets. So what we've done so far is Startup Show San Diego launched at June 23rd or June 13th as part of San Diego Startup Week. We created a TV studio in a day, and then we did Produced 3 TV shows which aired during Startup Week, and then we did 40 interviews. And since then, we've done over 100 interviews. And the first thing we did was try to figure out how to crack the broadcasting. So the show is on, it says here, channel 50.1. It's actually also on 50.2 and on AT&T Uverse, channel 50, and hopefully by the end of the year it may even be on Cox Cable. So, so that's pretty good. So that's what the Startup Show San Diego is. Of those over 100 interviews, we've created, we published probably, here on our webpage, startupshowsd.com, there's over, so that by the way on the front page is our highlights reel. Definitely recommend you look at it. It's about 3 minutes. But on the videos page, we've got over 5 pages of videos, and one of those you can see right in the first row is our PetTech show. So that PetTech show is airing right now, so it recirculates. It'll be on the air for at least a year. And right now it circulates a lot because the show goes at 3 and 9, and we only have 6 episodes. So it'll get mixed in a lot. Later, it will, as we get more episodes, it'll still play. So primarily what we've been trying to do is learn how to create and distribute content. So we learn how to broadcast content. So the show gets broadcast. Then we learn how to video cast content. So we learn how to edit it and put it on things like YouTube and video. We've also actually got a lot of the videos on podcasts. We haven't published it, so our podcast channel most likely go live in October, so you can actually get this as a video and an audio podcast in October. So think of that when you think of what content we should create and where to do it. We also are going to launch news releases, so we'll say, here's what the shows were about, and I'm trying to figure out what best to link to. So the main thing we've done is learn how to create and broadcast, videocast, podcast, and now we're learning to webcast. So that's what we're doing here, is we're learning how to create webcasts and put those and figuring out how to distribute them. So did I do okay in explaining what we've done so far?
Yes, very good.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get the videos on our webpage. You can also get those on our YouTube channel, which is Startup Show SD. So I guess the first question is, when we talk about PetTech is people, it's technologies, and it's also community. So for example, Pet Partners was talking about even a co-working space for pet people. So I guess I'll ask you guys, what does the PetTech community most need to tell? First of all, I guess two things. One is to tell other people about the PetTech community, but what does the PetTech community, what would they benefit from knowing from each other?
I think I could start on this. So I think to address the knowing from each other, I think there's a way better way for us to all to collaborate. And I think bringing this webinar in a particular TV station or whatever to reality makes us kind of not only interact, but actually build relationship and see how we can collaborate further. As for the PetTech community, I think there's a lot more resources that are being opened up, and so many different options that are available out there that a lot of people don't know or realize are at their fingertips. So I think bringing awareness to that and just sharing the information is just so invaluable to all the pet owners.
Yeah, definitely want to echo that. I mean, in terms of resources that would be helpful for the PetTech community, I think there are many that are shared with the greater entrepreneurial ecosystem, the opportunity to connect with one another, to have access to mentors, advisors, those with experience within the industry, and then also access to capital. But I think one particular need that's specific to San Diego is the incredible opportunity we have here, especially with Petco and with a high number of potential customers and users, whether four-legged or two-legged, here in San Diego. And there's a wealth of insights and resources that we can generate about the market that can not only benefit the players here in the pet tech community, but also those nationally. I think it is an opportunity to be able to show that San Diego is a leader in biotech and pharma and military, but also the combination of such a high per capita presence of dogs and other pets that we have in combination with the startup resources is a tremendous benefit. So it's a couple other startups specific to PetTech. This is actually the first gathering of individuals in the pet tech industry that I've ever been a part of. So even this is a value add.
Now, so I met with Hotel Indigo, which is a completely downtown pet-friendly hotel. In other words, if you stay there with your pet, there are no extra pet fees. But they're also quite happy to do pet happy hours, up on the terrace.
Yappy hours.
Yeah, yappy hours. So they're quite happy with the yappy hour right on the terrace with the view. Bring the pets. And they're
organized.
They're willing to throw in raffles and things like that.
Ooh, is that a plane?
I guess. Yeah. So would that be something of interest? Tech community meetup? You think people would show up for a yappy hour?
Absolutely. We threw a yappy hour once, and we also had a doggy fashion show. And we do a lot of free treat tastings out in the local communities, and we do try to work together with the other food companies here in San Diego. And we've come across a number of tech companies in the pet space at different events at retail locations. But yeah, absolutely, these yappy hours, these fun ways to engage people who have pets, I think is always a value add, whether it's specific just to the community in general in San Diego, so those who have pets and the owners, or even some specific for founders or those involved in any pet tech enterprise. So if they're interested, I think there's a number of ways in which we could explore that.
Cool. So one way is just to have a socially get together. That's one thing the pet community could do. The other thing is you could get together and discuss issues and webinars. So how do you think that webinars become effective for the pet community? Is it something you do as you need it? Is it something you think people be interested in some kind of frequency, once a quarter, once a month? What do you guys think about webinars?
I think webinars provide a great value if we have a particular topic that we can focus on. For example, shots or getting some sort of medical treatments or medical advice for pets and pet owners. Also, perhaps pet care or, traveling with a pet. Some of the hurdles, some of the things like, for example, Hotel Indigo, just knowing little things like that, sharing of information, I think could be very valuable.
Okay, so when do you think that, so what I'm hearing is we could put out surveys of topics.
Correct.
And people could say, I'm really interested in this, both topics of interest within the community and just within, pet people in general. Yep. And you could do a webinar. I like to keep them short, 15 to 30 minutes, because people don't have a lot of time, so we're halfway done with this one. But when do you think a TV show, which is where you kind of script things and tell a story that's integrated, and a webinar is more free form. Also, you get more feedback from a webinar. You get pretty wide distribution. So when do you think a TV show is good, and when do you think a webinar is good?
So I think in order to highlight successes of activity here, a TV show would be great. So telling potentially the individual story of one enterprise, or the collaboration of several enterprises and interesting partnerships to come up with a yappy hour, or we participated in the breaking the world record with most dogs watched. So any type of fun collaboration that's that is of human interest, I think would be great for a TV show. But there's a number of very interesting pet tech companies here in San Diego, whether it's Honest Kitchen, whether it's a couple of companies that are working on smart pet tech gadgets. Clever Pets, I think, is one of them. You know, those stories would be of interest, especially when going into their experience both here in San Diego and then with the market. So I would definitely find that content engaging. I think the general audience here in San Diego as well. And then for webinars, absolutely discussion-based. Anything that's free form, anything that might be a panel or some sort of workshop, I think a webinar is a great alternative.
I think we can also highlight perhaps on webinars something particular that each one of us is working on. So, you know, for Bento, maybe, you know, you're getting ready to release a new flavor and you want to hear some feedback or something more of an interaction. For us, we're getting ready to do a Kickstarter campaign. So maybe get more of, hey, what would you guys like to see? Do you have any recommendations? What, you know, what can we feature on it? Something more of free flow. Yeah.
Right. Right, and even for Kickstarter, I mean, we launched Kickstarter, Clever Pet launched Kickstarter, and there's a number of other pet companies that have launched successful Kickstarter campaigns. So there's definitely a lot of internal.
Maybe we can do a webinar on the successful Kickstarter campaign. I would love to talk to you about it.
Yeah, no, we're willing to help out in whatever way possible, because we benefited from. There's a local inventors club in Third Space that provided us a lot of resources and was very helpful. So.
Awesome.
Okay, so one thing would be good is just capturing the fun and culture of the startup community. So if you do a yappy hour, if you use an happy hour, well, then we could cover that and capture content. So if you can think of fun things to capture, interesting things to capture, we can either send the phones and or the cameras around, capture those and put those in segments. Especially we have volunteers to help us capture all.
Yeah.
So if we get a list of topics, then we could schedule Yappy Hour at some frequency. We could schedule webinars at some frequency if we knew what topics people want, so we can go out and kind of capture those, putting together surveys, and we could start working on another TV show if you think that. So the thing about a TV show is to get it together, because editing is expensive and conversion to broadcast is expensive, but it's not that expensive. I've got a fantastic deal and a fantastic team to do it. So if I get, you know, 1 or 2 sponsors or 10 people that want to run very inexpensive commercials like $200, we can do them. And again, those commercials go on broadcast, podcasts, videocasts, and they hang around for a year. So you know, that's the only thing we need to launch that. The webinars are easy because we can just do those.
Yeah.
And the Yappy Hours, I think we can do those unless we want to put it on Meetup. Then somebody needs to sponsor the Meetup group, and maybe Startup Show San Diego can help. Before we move on, I want to show you guys one other thing that's kind of another thing. So we've talked about broadcast, videocast, podcast, social cast, that kind of thing. But one of the things I'm very interested in, these could be topics of a webinar or a workshop, is how to teach people how to do things. And one of those is create content themselves. Like, how do you do a Facebook Live or a Periscope or a Snapchat? Or how do you put together your commercial or a Kickstarter campaign? But one thing that I really haven't talked about is this idea of telling a story. So there's these things called story maps. And here's an example one. This isn't a particularly great story map, and it's not pet related, but what it is that you can see is it's a mixture of maps, text, pictures, links. In fact, so the only reason this meant something to me is because I just never understood the Battle of Gettysburg. Not that you have to care about battles. It's just I kept, they write a book, they do a movie, and I just never really got it. And what they did here is you can see the in sequence. It goes in and you can see what happens in sequence. And then they did something kind of slick, as you can see the eyeball. And if you click on the eyeball, they actually generated a picture of what that would look like.
Oh, wow.
At that time, they wrote it in. So it's not the point that it has to be this particular even template, because there's a ton of templates, but the idea is it's not a web page that you just read and try and track things. So from the pet community, this idea of what is PetTech and where is it and who is it, I've got somebody, a volunteer, helping create this. So one of the reasons that we're doing this webinar is for me to get this feedback that's very valuable that you're giving, that we can use to help create the PetTech story map. So for example, it could talk about what is PetTech. Well, from listening to you and from the TV show, what I got was part of PetTech is connecting people, owners and businesses, things like that. It's things that connect, like Stanza, for example, is a connective technology. Another type of technology is basically the health kind of stuff, which, even so Into Bento fits into the health kind of stuff. It may even be something like Clever Pet, which is more of the tech space. And then finally, there's making services easier. How do you deliver and find the services and products and things that people need? So, for example, you could put that in a story map. And here's the thing about the story map. Why we would work to tell the big picture, there'd be tools where everybody could load in their own story. So if we talk about health in general, then Into Bento could come in and load their own videos and links and tell their story in there. And if we talked about connecting and those kind of things, Stanza Pets could go put their own links and texts. And so the idea is that's kind of what we're trying to do, is think about how to use that as yet another form of content, is telling the story. I think that's where Startup Show San Diego is trying to be unique. We're not just trying to say, here's another entrepreneur, here's another startup. We like that, but it's really about what is the startup ecosystem of San Diego look like, and it includes all these stories. So we can link the videos and interviews we do into these story maps also. So that's kind of the idea. So what are your thoughts on telling the story of PetTech? Is that something that would be valuable?
I think it could be. It could be. It has to be very clear of what the story is. I think I'm a little confused on what the story would be in this particular
Well,
realm.
let's say if you wanted to learn about PetTech, what would you want to know about? For example,
I think one of the things that
that
I'm seeing, and I'm pretty excited about the map that you showed, is being able to understand the landscape of PetTech here in San Diego. So I'm not quite sure what the story might be going off of that point before, but understanding the landscape. So who is doing what, I think would be of value. What are the services here in San Diego? What are the different niche markets here in PetTech in San Diego, and who's getting funding, who's funding who's partnering with who, what type of support is there locally, what type of organizations are willing to support PetTech? Where are all the other hotel indigos that are pet friendly and willing to help boost local businesses, whether they're lifestyle or high growth? And perhaps that is an interactive map of San Diego where you can both see categorically who all the players are, but also geographically. I think from the perspective of somebody involved in an enterprise from the early stage, that would be the most value. And then switching to being a citizen of San Diego, that would also be of interest if there are events incorporated, knowing where the yappy hours are, knowing where the dog tasting or dog treat tasting ones are, where I can have a free trial of the next app, or how I might be able to meet other very tech-savvy dog owners. And I think there are two perspectives and two users there. I definitely see some overlap in a type of interactive map, similar to what you're seeing. So instead of a specific conflict in the Battle of Gettysburg, it might be a foosball competition between PetTech startup founders.
Well, it might be, for example, if I'm in PetTech, where do I find PetTech mentors? Where do I find PetTech funding? Where do I find pet-friendly working environments? Mm-hmm. Where, and it might be, well, who else is working on making dogs more healthy? Who else is working on connecting the community? Who else is working on high-tech stuff? Or who else is working on making services more convenient, or better delivery, things like that? I don't know the answer. I'm just starting a conversation, and everything you're saying is helping with that conversation. All right. Anybody have any last things? Was this valuable to you?
Yeah, good to connect.
Well, I know you wanted somebody who knew how to do a Kickstarter campaign, so you got check for you.
Yeah.
And let us know how we can help. We can definitely send you the resources we have. And
I would love to talk to you. Maybe I can. I'll shoot you a message offline.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Alina, let's get together and write down what we think some topics are that we can put into a questionnaire and put out and see what people want. And we can also talk about a yappy hour. And when we get those topics, we can see what things would be good for a show. Any other last?
I think that sounds great.
All right.
Yeah,
thank you, everybody. And thank you for helping us test out the webinar technology. I'm thrilled that it works. Next time we do this, we'll promote it a lot more. So now that we know it works. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.